Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayorkas, nice to see you. Appreciate your wife being here and your daughters. I'm sure your daughters are enjoying seeing you on the hot seat. I'm sure they've had that experience themselves with you. A couple of things. I want to follow up on something Senator Langford opened, which is apparently a caravan moving in our direction. What is your intention with regards to that caravan that is coming to our border? Is your intention to allow them just to come into the country? Will they be stopped? What's the plan?
Senator, we are a nation of immigrants, and we are also a nation of laws. And I intend to apply the law in the execution of my responsibilities as the Secretary of Homeland Security, should I have that privilege.
I understand that. And what does that mean in this regard? Does that mean that they will be interdicted and rejected from coming into the country, evaluated one by one? What's the plan?
Senator, when people present themselves at our border, we apply the laws of our nation to determine whether they qualify for relief under our humanitarian laws or whether they don't.
Kind of uncertain there, but I presume that means that they will not be allowed just to come into the country, that these people will be stopped at the border and processed one by one. Is that correct?
Senator, I apologize if I was uncertain. If people qualify under the law to remain in the United States, then we will apply the law accordingly. If they do not qualify to remain in the United States, then they won't.
Thank you. Chairman Portman raised a number of issues with regards to the EB-5 program and your involvement in what appeared to be political favoritism. And he asked you what lessons you've learned from that. I had the experience of serving as a governor and now as a senator. In each case, I've had a chief of staff who have acquainted me with anything that might provide the appearance of favoritism or conflict of interest of some kind, political or economic. Sometimes I don't notice those things, and they bring them to my attention. You should not involve yourself in this decision because it may be seen as being inappropriate, and as a result, you might lose the confidence of American people who entrust you to carry out your responsibilities without favoritism. I would have anticipated that when Senator Portman asked you, what have you learned from this process, that you might say, I have learned from the process that when something appears to be political, I should recuse myself. Is that not a lesson you learned with regards to this? Looking back on these circumstances, should you have not said, because I have been called by a leading Democrat, whether Governor Rendell or others of that nature, that in a circumstance like this, because of my political connection, I should recuse myself and let others take that responsibility? Is that not the appropriate action to take when something has the very distinct appearance of political favoritism?
Senator, let me, if I may, answer that in several parts, because the EB-5 Investor Visa Program is a program that involves very, very significant and complex business developments that involve hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and it was broken. And so for me to recuse myself from the program in its entirety would have been for me to abdicate my responsibility to fix
of course.
the problem.
No, I'm only suggesting with regards to when an individual who happens to be a leading Democrat would call you, that meant, holy cow, I got to step back.
Well, Senator, on the one hand, I was very responsive to members of the United States Senate and the House of Representatives on both sides of the aisle. And I prided myself on my responsiveness, and I commit to continue in that responsiveness. We did establish guardrails to better protect against the appearance or the perception of favoritism as a result of the Inspector General's findings, and I would adhere to those guardrails and findings accordingly. I did, in fact, learn, Senator, how to better guard against the perception, and I agree with you 100% that it is our obligation to guard against that perception so that there is trust and confidence in the decision-making of government leaders.
Thank you. Some time ago, I toured the border with our nation in Mexico in San Diego and met with the head of the union responsible for keeping our border safe. And he said, look, the wall is helpful, but it's not going to stop people coming across the border as long as we have such a big magnet. And I said, what do you mean a big magnet? He said, well, if people are able to get paid $10 an hour from working on our side and only $1 an hour from working on the other side, they're going to find a way in. And from that, I recognize the importance of the E-Verify program, basically as something to punish American employers that hire people who come here illegally. Do you support the E-Verify program? Is it an important tool? Should it be mandatory? Should it be permanent? Is this an essential element of protecting our nation and the opportunities of employment for so many of our people today who've been put out of work because of the COVID crisis?
Senator, when I was the Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, under my leadership, we made tremendous improvements to the E-Verify program, and under my leadership, enrollment, voluntary enrollment in the E-Verify program increased dramatically. I would look forward to studying the utilization now of the EB-5 program, its effectiveness in the business community, its effectiveness in achieving its intended purposes, and I would look forward to working with you as I study the effectiveness of that program.
I assure you that I will be happy to work with you to see if we can't get E-Verify as a more effective tool for policing employers who hire folks that have come here illegally. I'll leave one question without much opportunity for you to respond to, given my time. But I've had the occasion of working someplace and wondering how I would do things differently than my boss. You've worked as the number 2 at the Department of Homeland Security. You probably looked at what your boss did. He was a great leader, but you probably got some ideas yourself as to things you would like to do differently. One that certainly has come to your mind is with regards to our cybersecurity. We are woefully unprepared from a cybersecurity standpoint in this nation and in our government, and hope that as you look at this agency and your new responsibilities, assuming you are confirmed, that you will focus on bringing a whole different level of expertise, both in defensive actions with regards to cybersecurity and offensive actions, and protect our government and our economy from those who would attack us in this new, most powerful way.
Senator, if I may respond briefly, I was incredibly proud to be the deputy to Secretary Johnson. Secretary Johnson prioritized a very evolving cybersecurity threat, and we made tremendous advances in the department under his ultimate leadership. The threat has only evolved and only grown since then, and I can assure you that the cybersecurity of our nation will be one of my highest priorities, because I concur with you that the threat is real and the threat is every day, and we have to do a much better job than we are doing.